I am human. Therefore, I am not without sin. Which is why I played Pokemon Unite again recently, even though I cannot advocate people to play this game until the devs get their act together and separate the queues. You cannot have 5 stacks on the same ladder as solo duo queue, but here we are. However, admittedly, the game is fun. I enjoy playing Pokemon Unite, but that's the thing about drug addiction. Even though it's bad for you, you keep on coming back for more. Also, the people need me. I do make the best Pokemon Unite content, I bring the best information about the game, and without me, a lot of people are lost, so I guess I gotta do what I gotta do, and that means continuing the Pokemon Unite videos. So let's start off with the golden child of the patch. Absol is still B tier. The Pokemon, it's a lot different. It did get buffed, and I would say B+ tier, but I'm not making a tier just for one Pokemon, unless maybe something weird plays out with Pokemon I haven't really thought about. But yeah, Absol is effectively the same thing. However, I will say it is A tier if you run Fluffy Tail and you set up for the objective secure. Problem is, a lot of people are still just playing greedy Absol, and really, it means you need less luck to get kills. But even back before the back before the buff, if Absol got ahead, it didn't really matter too much. Even if it got like lucky ganks and started snowballing out of control, it just didn't matter in the late game. Now, Absol is stronger in the late game now because Buddy Barrier isn't going to absorb its entire ult. It is still much stronger, but it has the same problems to where if it just doesn't get the right setup in a fight, and there's also a lot of team comps out there where like Aegislash is getting more popular, any kind of bulky Pokemon like a Trevenant, if Absol doesn't kill the thing and it's just sitting there waiting on cooldowns, it's now 5v4. And the backline Pokemon are mobile, there's also a lot of Blissy going around, so like just playing good into Absol doesn't give it any opportunity. Like Absol doesn't have outplay potential. It just runs at you and then does like absurd amounts of damage, but into skilled matchups, that's not really that good. And if you're running Fluffy Tail, yeah, you have to be really good on the objectives, but again, like just kind of getting set up against on the objectives mean Absol doesn't find like a chance in, does have some steal potential, but I'm not going to be like, oh, Absol is S tier because it can steal just like Venusaur 20% of the time, therefore Venusaur is also an S tier Pokemon. Yeah, those flips on Zapdos do win games, but you also have to like consider the rest of the game states and stuff like that. Absol, very overrated unless you're a low skill player and you don't really know like how to play objectives properly, but also does have some strengths that are making the game really wild when it does those like Fluffy Tail, Ult Dreadnought, Ult Zapdos plays. But if it doesn't get the chance to do that, then it's a 4v5, and that makes the game very difficult. Next up, Mamoswine, still S tier. My goodness, this Pokemon has won the lottery, like the Buddy Barrier lottery. That there's less to stop it with, because normally, like, if you get that Icicle Crash pick, and then you start charging in, and the entire team ults to save the carry, yeah, you can then ult and be unstoppable and, like, chip through the damage, but it kind of makes the picks really hard. Now Mamoswine just gets the picks, snowballs out of control. If you run Earthquake, you're bad. If you run Ice Fang, you're bad. You need to be able to land multi-stuns on the Icicle Crash high horsepower, and if you're good, it's actually not that hard because there's a lot of chokes around Zapdos, a lot of lane setups, and you're the tank. You can just walk up, sit there for a bit, and then wait for your opportunity, and eventually land it. So it puts out a lot of pressure, is pretty much like Blastoise on launch to where it can one-shot people when it has no right to, and it's a tank, so it's very difficult to kill. The Pokemon is broken and has been for a very long time. Same thing for the Garchomp. Even though Garchomp has been nerfed and it is fairly weaker compared to previous states like before the level 9 change, it still just takes over games. You play the Garchomp, you do the cheese where you just take the Audino bot. Like, you have to watch my gameplay to understand how to play out the strategy properly. I've got a lot of streams, I've got a lot of videos about it, and you can reliably do that, win the duels, get some Audinos, even if you don't hit level 5 before first Bs. Like, you just scale. You just play with good game sense and macro, and then you get your Garchomp to the late game, and by second Dreadnought, by the time you hit level 9, the opponent really can't do anything, and then you just take over the game. So, once again, it's like, yeah, if you're a bad player, then you don't think Garchomp is good, or if you're bad Garchomp, you don't think it's good, and you don't know how to play the game. But that doesn't stop the Pokemon from being S tier, which again is why my tier list videos and game insight is needed kind of more than ever, but also has just always been needed since so many players are bad and so many players are lost. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video, save Elo. Where do we go from here? Because, like, there's so many things. Oh, yeah, also Mamoswine got a buff this patch, which made it even better. Delphox. I think Delphox is, like, the most A-tier Pokemon I can think of, just from watching it play out, because it can take over. It can do some crazy things, but it is squishy. Like, when you look at a Pokemon like Absol, when you see a speedster like Talonflame come in, you go, yeah, I understand why I one-shot these Pokemon. For some reason, I just don't expect Delphox to be, like, the squishiest Pokemon in the game. But then, like, you just hit it a couple times and, oh, wow, okay. But if you don't get to, like, completely zone it out or nuke it, then it creates a lot of problems. That Fire Spin CC is nuts. The damage from Fire Blast is nuts. Its ult is... It just lasts too long. It's just a ton of damage just sits there forever. The Pokemon's area control, burst damage, really good. Also just, like, weird mobility. Does have a kind of weak laning, but if you can just, like, get secures and go for a neutral lane, then Delphox actually becomes a pretty big problem to deal with. Might as well talk about Talonflame. Haven't seen much Talonflame because, like, everyone's just running it down on Absol and not really doing that great. I'm guessing Talonflame probably still in the same A-tier spot, but probably just has, like, better picks to take into the jungle, like the Cinderace, like the Greninja. Is Cinderace S tier? Probably after the Greninja nerfs. It's just one of those things where it's like, is Greninja S tier? No, because it got nerfed? Alright, Cinderace is now S tier. Is Cinderace S tier? No, because it got nerfed. Okay, now Greninja's S tier. The two best AD carries are just going to trade spots until the end of time, but even then I've still thought, like, for the most part, it's skewed in Cinderace's favor. Just the amount of damage this Pokemon puts out on auto attacks is ridiculous. Also has really good objective control and secure, and doesn't really have too many problems just getting there. Like, if you are a good AD carry fundamental player, the Pokemon's nuts. Greninja is different because it's dishonest because it has the smoke screen. Yeah, you have to play it, like, completely different, and that's why I think just a fundamental character like Cinderace is able to put out more control in the game with less specialization, I guess is a good way of putting it. So that also gives it more access to the S tier. Lucario, putting it A+, can still be annoying, can still be a hassle, but also is just a lot weaker. Like, it's gone from S, and then it got tagged on damage nerfs, and now it's A+. Same kit, just doesn't instant auto win. And even, like, if you play it really well and you get, like, the multi-extreme speed combos off, you don't do as much as other Pokemon, and it's good for balance, but it is kind of weird. Like, if you got that early read, if you were not an idiot and you went, wait, extreme speed is the best since, like, the game launched almost a year ago, you got a long time to get Freelo on the Lucario and then get really good to the point where, oh, these nerfs don't bother me because I've mastered Lucario to a point where people are still trying to catch up. And that's just kind of like the nature of it. The Pokemon skill cap was achieved. It took a long time because the player base sucks at the game. And now your fun time's over, but still a good, respectable Pokemon and still strong early game control. Also without, like, the Score Shield shenanigans and Buddy Barrier. You know, it doesn't get to get free abuse anymore, but still pretty good. Also, another thing about Mamo is, like, it just wins lane. It has 3 crowd control at level 3. Like, you can just do whatever, and there's no way they can contest it. Yeah, so that's doing pretty good. Gengar. I'm feeling Gengar's A+ tier. Gengar is the jungle pick that people need to be doing. If you go Dream Eater, you suck. Whatever influencer told you to do that, unfollow them immediately, because they are only costing you and the community games. You just gotta go Sludge Bomb Hex. You do that, you open it up on a good, like, level 5 push or into Bees or something, game just starts to get over. And also, it kind of gives you access to the back line to, like, scare Absol off of some kind of objective take, or you just burst it down with other Pokemon. Like, yeah, Gengar just really good when specialized pretty well. Aegislash, after what I've seen D-Lies do, Pokemon has to be S tier. It just, the way I can consider Aegislash is like Season 2, Season 3 League of Legends vein, to where you can just straight up walk into 5 people and 1v5 them if you're better. Like, if you just have more skill, there is not much the opponent can do. If you click all of your buttons perfectly, they just don't get to play the game. And even, like, saying that about Lucario. Lucario got nerfed to where doing everything perfectly isn't enough to hard win. So, like, this is the new Mr. Mime. I used to be like, yeah, Mr. Mime S tier because it's the most undiscovered, unknown Pokemon in the game that, like, 5 people are just so cracked at, but they had to have some kind of, like, insane amounts of life trauma to be able to unlock this Pokemon. To where, like, the ceiling of Mr. Mime is unachievable. Also, it got nerfed on Confusion, so it's not, like, S tier anymore. But, like, the ceiling on Mr. Mime is so immense that it has to be S tier from all, like, the weirdness you can do with that Pokemon. That's Aegislash now. Mr. Mime, I still think it's probably, like, the best A+ tier Pokemon secretly. Still got Secures. Confusion nerf doesn't make it as free, but it also did get a buff to its Unite move, and Mr. Mime has one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Unite moves in the game, especially now with the Buddy Bearer nerf. Like, it all comes back to Buddy Bearer nerf, where every Pokemon kind of won, and it depends if it lost more. Like, if the Pokemon lost more from the Buddy Bearer nerf, it's just bad now, like Eldegoss or Wigglytuff. But if it didn't lose too much out of it, it's like, yeah, now Mr. Mime just gets to stun a team that doesn't have 300% of its health and shields. Uh-oh, that's a bad time. And if you can lock down the right targets and you can get Mr. Mime there, yeah, it's still really strong. Maybe S tier, but no one's playing Mr. Mime anymore because the game is dead, because the devs did not split the queue. Also, idiots thought the game was pay to win, and the rest of it is just burning players out because everyone else sucks and their games are unenjoyable. Pokemon Unite deserves so much better, but overall, like, yeah, there we are. Zeraora, I don't know. Like, the problem is, I don't know. Like, I've seen a lot of Pokemon in my games, because, like, that's the cool thing about Pokemon Unite right now. It's pretty balanced. A lot of Pokemon are getting a lot of representation. The problem is just people suck at the game. Even in high Master, like, over 2K Master, like, even the top teams and players, they have no idea what they're doing, because it's just an underdeveloped game that never took off and is pretty dead right now. So, like, I'm just going off of more game feel, but I don't know where, like, the sleeper picks lie. Did Zeraora get nerfed too much to not be S? Is it secretly S? Is it just A+ tier? Or did something tragic happen and the Pokemon is just good? Like, I'll take good and balanced as, like, a nice thing. But maybe it's also just, like, if you get that one really, really, really good Zeraora player, they can do old Zeraora stuff because everything's just kind of been tagged down a bit. We're not in a complete reverse power creep right now, but things are just playable. It's not like, oh, launch Zeraora, 0 counterplay, launch Gengar, 0 counterplay. It feels good. Blastoise, strong tank. I'm always going to put Blastoise way under Mamoswine, except for, like, launch Blastoise, because that was ridiculous. But I'm putting Blastoise under Mamoswine because Mamoswine just does it better. It has screen away, large AoE crowd control, crazy burst damage, and just better laning. Like, that's the problem. Squirtle into Blastoise, good. The laning, bad. Mamoswine, strong the entire game. This is just a win. This can still do things. This can still have flashes of A+, but it just doesn't line up. Snorlax got buffs, has picks. Maybe, like, you do some really cool flashy things where, you know, you get the heavy slam knock up and then you flash into the block and you pull 3 people into your team. There's just a lot of unstoppability. There's just a lot of just nonsense in the game. I guess mobility to where Snorlax doesn't get away with a lot of what it did on launch, but it can still set up plays. It can still be alright. It's kind of like Blastoise in that way, to where, yeah, you can do the thing that wins the game, but it doesn't have, like, the damage to super back it up, and it doesn't have, like, a lot of other crazy stuff, but it is just, like, an AoE knockup and then a shield that pushes and stuns people. If Snorlax didn't get the nerfs that it got, yeah, it'd probably be A+ tier right now, but too little damage. Not really doing crazy things. I don't know where Gardevoir landed. It got that weird level 8 change and went from, like, premier jungler to, other people are just jungling it. Again, like, Absol, overrated Pokemon, taking up a lot of priority on some other good junglers. But Gardevoir, Gardevoir's kind of in the same spot as Delphox. Like, if you get onto the Gardevoir, it doesn't do anything. But if Gardevoir gets to just like kite you forever on the stuns and then like land all of its side shocks or something, even have like great pressure at Zapdos, get a strong Unite move. Oh, wait, Gardevoir took over the game from the jungle. How did that happen? How did we let that happen? Things, but just not as consistent. I guess that's kind of like the consistency breakdown. Pokemon up here, they just dominate. Like, game's over when played to their fullest. These Pokemon, very, very strong. These Pokemon, they'll win you games. They can have pop-off moments. They can have glimpses of being A+ tier, S tier. Like, Gardevoir has glimpses of S tier. I'd say everyone else has, like, glimpses of A+ tier or something. Absol is just weird right now. So, with all that, like, yeah, Pokemon are feeling all right. Cramorant's early game, I think, is the only thing floating it above the other mages into A+ tier. But also, I'm the #1 Cramorant in the world. So I know what this Pokemon is. It just doesn't have the S tier since the damage nerfs. Why? Why nerf Surf and its ult and just not give it back and all the other weird things? Because the problem is, like, right now, Cramorant wins the first 8 minutes of the game, and then is just kind of neutral. It doesn't spike for Zapdos. Other Pokemon power spike around Zapdos, and then, like, oh, Garchomp, Cinderace, they just win harder at Zapdos. Cramorant can get a pick, but the pick starts the team fight, and then it just kind of doesn't get to do as much in the Death Ball. It can set up for a good ult, but depending on, like, how that goes, someone will just sit in front of you. Like, you know, you get a tank just waiting on top of the Cramorant. Well, now the 4v4 is happening, and Cramorant isn't able to impact it, even though it's supposed to be the carry. Now it also has, like, crazy, you know, picks and stuff in the mid-game and everything else. Like, yeah, Surf Hurricane, the only way to play if you're running Dive Air Slash. Absolute trash. You might as well just uninstall if you ever thought that was a good idea, outside of memes and for fun. But, yeah, like, it's good, and you can do a lot, but there's only so much you can do. These Pokemon can solo carry. Cramorant doesn't, and that upsets me. Serena's A+. It got nerfed, but then it also got, like, some weird changes and stuff, and then got buffed back. I don't know about the Stomp. Maybe that's I don't know what the best to do on Serena is. I just know that, oh, I've watched it still win 1v3s because the Pokemon is ridiculous when you have no cooldowns, and then you just get to run over people. Also, the Buddy Bearer changes benefit it. Normally, Serena just kind of, like, ults into a Buddy Bearer at Zapdos, and then the game just kind of dies and doesn't get to do anything. Now, there's so much volatility in the game that Serena gets to dominate team fights. Cool. Because that's really how Serena, like, won 1v4s, 1v5s back in the day, especially when its numbers were overtuned. Like, it would just blow Unite move, because it kind of didn't matter at Zapdos and needed to kind of put the enemies down, and then just ran off with, like, using a million abilities inside of a fight. But if the enemy team has to, like, hold on to their valuable cooldowns, you can't. Like, you have to match Serena with the ult, or else it's just going to win a multi-fight. But if it's 2 minutes, 30 seconds before Zapdos, kind of don't want to do that. So it has, like, a lot of weird stuff, but it can also still be exploited. Just keep crowd controlling it, just keep it locked down. But then if you let it squeak away, that fight's over. So A+ on that. Trevenant, A+ tier. Really good Trevenants. You know when they stand out. If you can curse Horn Leech and you set up that combo and you have a decent enough laning phase on, like, the resets and stuff, you become unkillable, and then you just don't let multiple players play the game. It does require a team, and that is a problem, but it gets to the point where, like, if you can just drag your team through the game by holding down, like, by just playing Trevenant so well, if they're just in the vicinity pressing the A button, they're going to win that team fight just off the back of how much utility you're bringing to that fight. It's like Trevenant, yeah, nasty Trevenants are impressively good. Hoopa's S tier, having, like, teleport and nonsense and just the most disgusting Unite move and all this other combos, and, like, Hoopa Absol composition, just kind of making every objective just not even fair. Like, just delete Hoopa or nerf it towards the most niche of unviable picks. Like, this was the worst decision. This is the worst thing for game health that could ever happen, and it just ruins coordinated play, and it just ruins all kinds of play. Pokemon's just too ugly, because it only does two things. It resets on the base port, and then it brings the entire team to the objective with a way to overtune Unite move. The Pokemon sucks at all the other points, but Zapdos is the game. And since it brings the most power out of, I would argue, any Pokemon in the game to Zapdos, it is the game. Pikachu, haven't been putting enough B tier Pokemon. Pikachu did get Lifesteal, but did lose a lot of Buddy Barriers, but its enemies lost a lot of Buddy Barriers. It can still just kind of unite whenever, but I think there's just other Pokemon that are overperforming it more. Like, after all the changes Pikachu's seen, like, it just got buffed. How did it not get buffed into A tier? I don't know. Eldegoss just got, like, Giga Nerfed down into B tier or whatever. But, like, it just doesn't. Like, I just haven't felt it as much this patch as other Pokemon. Like, I get a Pikachu on my team, and I'm just disappointed. I get a Pikachu on the enemy team, and it doesn't feel like it ever finds a way of having an impact. Maybe crazy Pika mains? Sure, A tier. And, like, I am kind of, like, that's how I'm doing this tier list. Like, yes, the Pokemon played at its peak is where it lands. But even, like, a peak prime Pikachu, I feel like isn't able to do enough. Maybe it's cooldown, and it doesn't even have crazy cooldowns. Like, it just doesn't do the sustained DPS, but it doesn't pick as hard as Cramorant. And the fights are more spaced out, so it's not like uniting and then catching, like, a cluster of people inside a Thunderbolt or something. I think B+ just kind of makes everything too cluttered, though. Because then we can just, like, do that. But then it starts feeling ugly. Almost Ninetales is B+. Ninetales is still good, though. But it did get nerfed. But it did get buffed. But then that was what the nerf was for. Game is actually, like, that's the weird thing about, like, when the game is balanced and how things feel. Because, like, there actually isn't anything that's way too egregiously oppressive except for Hoopa. But then there's just, like, a lot of other stronger picks towards, like, Ninetales is good. I'm going to say, like, Ninetales has the kit of an A character, but doesn't get to succeed like an A+ or an S, or even get to be, like, super blatantly A tier. But I guess there is that thing where, like, Ninetales will just sit in the back, put out a lot of crowd control, get second highest damage. Something that isn't A tier can't do that. Machamp, I'm going to say, is probably, like, sleeper A+ tier, though. I've seen some outrageous Machamp play recently on this patch, as people just kind of opening it up, and yeah, it's always just been very strong punch, absurd Pokemon. Maybe we can start populating B tier. Venusaur, B tier. Azumarill, B tier. Espeon's feeling D tier, honestly. Like, every time I get an Espeon in my game, I'm like, you could have gone Sylveon, but we would have had a chance to win. But, like, Espeon just does not seem to have any game presence whatsoever. It can do things, like, sometimes, like, whoa, okay, Espeon, cool. But I'm never, like, seeing Espeon killing me or in my kill feed. And it just got buffs, but it just kind of, like, shows how woefully undertuned the Pokemon was. It's kind of like reminds me of Release Decidueye, where you can tell they were very careful about not pulling another Sarina, or not pulling another Zeraora, or not pulling another Hoopa. That's kind of upsetting, because, like, it could have used... actually, do we need another just strong, immediately overtuned attacker? Probably not. But, Espeon, I don't know, I don't think it's thriving. It's barely surviving, even in, like, today's game state. Going to put Decidueye... Like, I don't want to invent the B+ tier just to overpopulate it. But, like, Decidueye, in theory, has, like, just that crazy snowball potential. Once it gets ramped, once it gets going, boom, 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 it just starts shredding through people. Its Unite move is good now. It has a lot going for it. But at the same time, like, if the right targets aren't removed from the fight, and Decidueye is in kind of like a 2v2 duel at the end of a fight, it's going to lose if a Garchomp is still alive. It's going to lose if a Cinderace is still alive, or a Gengar, or any kind of, like, assassin, especially a Sarina. You know, if anything can get onto it, it's still made of paper, it still can't win. Like, Blissy, Decidueye comps, like, I'd rather just throw a Blissy onto any other Pokemon above it, like a Garchomp or a Cinderace or something. So yeah, maybe it is B tier, but at the same time, like, it can flash, it can carry, it can do a thing, but I think that there's just better picks. Like, every other direct AD carry is better than it, and like I said, depending on how the skirmish goes, it might just not have what it needs in its kit to end up winning the rest of the fight and securing the game or something like that. Dragonite's kind of dropped off. I'd say Dragonite's actually just easy to say, B+ tier. Blissy. The egg shenanigans feel S tier, but at the end of the day, you have one ability. Also, these tier lists are starting to get really long. Now that I'm like, oh yeah, we're just getting 2 Pokemon added in every time there's an update, and then like a lot of patch changes. So like the game changes drastically almost every patch. Even if like a lot of the Pokemon stay in the same place, there's a lot to talk about as to why things are the way they are, and I think that's like good for a patch rundown. Wasn't expecting it to be this long, but here we are. I'm personally gonna put Blissey at A+ tier, like big priority pick on the support, but you kind of don't need a support to win, but it can just like latch onto the right thing and just make the game unplayable. But you only have one ability and nothing else. I don't know, do we return to Helping Hand, or do you just keep spamming the egg on the right player and that's it? Charizard. Even with the nerfs, I'm putting Charizard at A tier. That Unite move is way too strong because like it's unstoppable, and then it has crazy speed, and then it also gets lifesteal, and it just does crazy crits and insane amounts of damage. Like once Charizard unites, can't do much about it on most Pokemon, and since we're in a blind pick game, even in ranked, like that's a pretty safe thing to do. Also, it's early game. Yeah, it can like tick steal with the flamethrower and the burn damage and stuff. Like a good Charmander can play kind of the early game like a Gible, surprisingly aggressive, and get away with more than it should, and then kind of scale. However, I feel like its entire Charmeleon phase, pretty exploitable, pretty underwhelming. Charmeleon starts like posturing into me, and I'm just all inning it, and there's not much Charmeleon can do about it. Also, with the nerfs, makes Charizard a little rough. But I think that Unite move, because like again, if we're breaking down the game, it comes down to objectives. Charizard saving its ult for objectives or big like swing plays for comeback experience or just like halting any opponent momentum. It's good at that. And it's also not like the worst laner and not just like the worst Pokemon floating through the game until it needs to power spike. So it sounds like an A tier Pokemon to me. Crustal. Haven't seen a lot of Crustal. Haven't played any Crustal, so I don't know where exactly it lands. Maybe sleeper A+. X's are the... Like, here's the thing. If you're running Stealth Rocks, you suck. Never do it, please. That's just a throw, trolling. Same thing on the Rock Tomb. Gotta go X-Scissor. Gotta go Shell Smash. If you do that, and you are just like the most Chad player with God game sense, you can post up in a fight, lock people out, one-shot them. Cool. That's Crustal. Till then, maybe just sit there. Maybe your landing's a little too vulnerable right now. Maybe don't power spike at the right times to kind of stay effective. Something high A tier, maybe A+. Clefable, that's still better than any other Pokemon in D tier. Duraludon. I think Duraludon also has, like, if you're maining Duraludon, you can definitely play it as A tier consistently. I've seen people get really good setups, and then it just like they just flash cannon, and then they pick off fights, and you gotta walk through a lot of damage to get on Duraludon. When you do, it's an ADC. Surprisingly squishy. Doesn't make sense because it's a tank in the games, but here we are. And yeah, like you can wade through the team and wade through the damage and get onto it. Then Duraludon is neutralized, but that's a lot of ifs. And those ifs, A tier. Wigglytuff, underwhelming. Never pick. Slowbro, Greedent still a troll pick, and Sylveon, A+. Better of the mage Pokemon, maybe the best mage, because I do think that it can bring more, like it has like the early game presence of a Cramorant, where like once you hit level 4, Bees are yours, Audinos are yours, everything is yours, you can start winning fights, you get crazy scaling damage onto objectives as well. Sylveon is just powerful, and then the Unite move and all that other stuff. Like, if you play Sylveon really good, you have more game impact than the Cramorant. Probably best mage because of that. Yeah, because, like, what else do we have? I have Delphox and Gardevoir, and, like, I just think that your early game, since you don't have to evolve as hard as these guys, you're just going to be good. Like, Sylveon is just going to be good, and if you get, like, any little bit of ahead enough with that hyper voice, yeah, I think Sylveon's A+ tier. Also, I'm trying to do something because there's the text that has now been like completely blocked out. There it is. Wow, I'm stupid. I'm also just tired from recording for the last 30 minutes. I wasn't moving this in XSplit. I was trying to move it in real life. We've all done it. We've all seen an X on a video and click on that, or we've seen like a button somewhere else and we clicked on it. It's not just... God, I did it again. It's not just me. Yeah, that's the game. Current state, don't pick any of these. The Pokemon are just not compatible with the game or very, very weak. These Pokemon just don't seem to succeed. These Pokemon can succeed, but still kind of struggle in the current game state. Everything above it, if you specialize into it, you can win games. And if you're a god, then this is how you just hard win games. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.